Now we're going to do a mindfulness activity. I call it the observational activity. And I learned this from one of the seniors at Waldorf, and it really changed my life. It really got me to be really objective and to start using my rational mind. So I've used this with my clients since, and it really starts to change their perspective and perception.
Sounds exciting.
So the activity is we're going to take something that I like to basically observe. I like to use something that's from nature just because there's a lot of natural detail to it.
Okay.
So what I would like you to do is if you can go around and pass around one of these fruits to everybody to let them choose what fruits they would like. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing an activity. The sheets that you have called mindfulness, there's an activity focus there, and basically there's going to be certain observations that I want you to take. We're going to take about 30 seconds. We're going to observe the item, and then we're going to jot down what we saw, what we thought about. All right, so I want you guys to take 30 seconds, and let me just get my timer out.
Okay, so for 30 seconds, I'm just going to look at this, and in the blank section here, I'm going to write down anything I notice about
Any
this.
thoughts that come to your mind.
my
I
head.
want you just to observe it for 30.
All right.
Oh, okay, there you go. You guys
All
can
right.
start. All right, you guys can. All right.
I have a cucumber. It is green, bumpy, long, and it looks old.
Yeah, there's some aging there. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing now, but I want you to find more detail. I want you to find things that you didn't see the last time you looked.
Okay.
All right. So, what observations have you guys seen?
Okay, so in my cucumber, I felt that it was cold. It feels kind of soft. And there's a lot of dried brown spots on it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else that they would like to share?
so
So what I want to do now is I want you guys to do the activity again, but I want you to kind of understand where your mind's wandering when it starts to relate it to different things. Like, for example, when you say something's old, what does the mind kind of go to when you're thinking about those? Is there any other relating words that come to your mind or assumptions you're making about the observation?
Oh, so if I say this is old, I'm assuming that it's been there for a long time.
Yeah, you're assuming because it
When
could have been that it came out of the ground like that, right?
I see.
So yeah, so it might be that our mind is relating it to being something old, right?
Because fruits that are withered and soft are normally
Exactly.
older.
Exactly, and something not, for example, not being normal. For example, a part of the banana was still green. That might be that it was touching something cold, right? But to us, we might relate it
I
to
see.
normal things, right? Or
Okay.
spots, and different things. Our mind might wander to different things. It might even trigger memories. It might trigger assumptions. So I want you guys to now observe it again and see how your mind wanders through that activity.
Okay.
All right.
So we're gonna do this for another 30 seconds.
I'm gonna actually make it for 1 minute this time,
Okay.
and then you guys can. Oops. You guys can go ahead. I'll just do it twice. You still got 30 seconds. I said it
All
again.
right.
All right. So, does anybody have anything to add for how their mind wandered away from the object?
Okay, well, for me, the more I kept looking at it, the more thoughts that kept coming in my head. Like one of them, which I did catch myself after learning what you told me, is that because of all the imperfections and bumpiness and stuff, I started assuming that it was organic. And it,
Oh, that's interesting.
because organic fruit, sometimes if they don't use pesticides, tend to be
Yes.
not as perfect. And then I started thinking about how it tasted. And then I started getting hungry.
That's a triggering thought, right? To
I started
something else.
thinking
Yeah.
about,
So sometimes that's what happens with our thoughts. So when we start to analyze how our thoughts kind of shift to different, ideas, memories, assumptions, we're going to start to be able to analyze it now. We can observe
Okay.
it. So yeah, so this is actually, we make assumptions all the time, even when we meet people, when we start a new job at different places. These even happen with relationships that we've had for many years. We might even have assumptions. So what I want you guys to do, there's a few sections that you can see. You can take it home and see if you can do any of the last few questions, where you basically see if you've had a theme in your assumptions, or in the things that you're relating. If there kept being a theme, like, so for example, if fresh or old came up, or something new, all these words I want you to pay attention to, and I want you to categorize the words that came up.
oh, you're right. So, like, just based on some of the responses and we got in, even my own, it seems like a theme here was the way something looks. We were automatically determining how old it was, where
Exactly.
it came from.
So you can
Just
see some of the
based-
patterns that we have already
So
as a
based
group
on
here.
what it looks like.
Yeah, and I've heard other things where somebody might say how old it was. Like maybe they're looking at fossil and they were like, okay, this is like 10 years, 10,000
see.
years old, right? Or whatever it is. They're trying to make assumptions. How did this happen? Maybe something banged into it, right? All those things that kind of lead you away. I want you to kind of analyze those things and see if you see a theme, a recurring theme,
Okay.
right? So you guys can do that on your own, and we will send you out the copies for those who are online. But one last thing to understand about this, the mindfulness activity, is that we want you guys to understand that when you're in objectful thinking, you're